a code that I can't crack in my head. Like sometimes it's because I'll just look at it, I'm like, damn, like I really want to know what it breaks down to, like why people don't give a fuck about the communities anymore. Like what really is just stopping? Because I agree with you, that's what's missing is
We're
that lack of
selfish.
community.
The guy that gave me the thing was like, "Oh, do you want to check off white?" Like, because they make you choose a race, and I'm like, and I literally looked at him like, "Are you seeing me? Do I look white to you?" The concept of race as it exists in America, I didn't experience that the first 10, 11 years of my life until I came here.
But aren't my parents supposed to protect me if something happens at school? Like I had a teacher that told me I was in fifth grade. Like this sounds like some song ass shit. Like really told me like, oh, you're not gonna be shit. And I'm like, all right, cool. I never said shit to my mom. But I'm 26 and I ain't forget that shit. Keep that shit a stack. And I'm gonna remind him one day.
Has to be heard or the special one. I think everybody thinks they're special, and that's kind of what causes it.
Yeah, I mean, I think shit. I think I'm special. I think. Welcome back to another episode of the Never Famous Podcast, best upcoming podcast on the planet. Make sure you hit the like, comment, subscribe, and we're just gonna get into a couple topics today. So 4th of July brought a couple different, like the Independence brought a couple different thoughts into my mind. What do you think the American dream? What is it to? What do you think the American dream is? What is it to you?
What is the American dream?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm an immigrant, so to me, it's the American dream. It's like having the opportunity to make it. It's like one of the only places in the world that you can be a nobody and become somebody. So that's what the American dream does. That it provides the not even the foundation. It just provide a field where anybody can come and play in. I think that's what the American dream is to me.
So the American dream is just that you have the chance, the opportunity that you can sub in the game. That's it. That's what the American dream is to you.
Yeah, like you have the ability to do it because it all comes down to the work you put in. It's not like the American dream. I don't think is guaranteed. I think it's like, hey, if you work for it, you can make it. But it's not like if you don't put the same amount of effort as somebody else, I wouldn't expect myself to get the same things they get. Like it just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a problem. We talk about that. Like a lot of times, people just expect they think it's just gonna happen. Like, oh,
Who's
like
that? Who's they?
people. Yeah, I noticed that people a lot of times they say that they want to do a lot of things, and then like they'll be like, oh, I want to become a singer, and I'm like, all right. So then we get into the conversation. What are you doing to actually become a singer for you to get better at your craft and actually grow and like and learn about the different things that you have to do in that field, for example. Like, but a lot of people don't do that. They just be like, oh, I want to do it, and then don't put any work into it.
I think that's with everything, though. I think we're getting to a point in time, especially in America, where I think our generation, I think, because I'm a millennial, so our generation and newer, we've had it, I don't want to say super easy, but we haven't had to struggle per se. Like, we don't really know what true poverty is. Like, some people do, but it's not the same poverty like I would have experienced in DR, for example, or like if you go to a country in Africa where you're like, oh, like the government doesn't do shit for you. You don't have access to running water. You don't have access to a toilet. Like it's a whole different kind of poverty. So I think because we have such a comfortable life, all in all, and it makes it easier to assume that we just deserve it. Like I'm like, oh, I'm entitled to it. Why don't I have it? And I think uh, it's a weird dynamic because I get where people come from. Like I get what somebody may feel entitled. If you grew up your entire life, even through school, oh, my teacher said this and this and this to me, and then I tell my mom, and my mom goes to the school and complains to the teacher, and then the teacher gets in trouble. Then I know, oh, even the people as in authority don't really have authority because I'm the one who has to be heard or the special one. I think everybody thinks they're special, and that's kind of what causes it.
Yeah, I mean, I think shit. I think I'm special. I think but shouldn't you think you're special? Though,
In which way? Like,
just in whatever way. I don't think. I think like you can be special. There's some people that are special at a few things, but I think that everybody's special at least one thing, and you just got to figure out what that is for you and work with that.
Yeah, but then that means then you become good at something. You're not special by default. That means you had to work at it. You have to figure out what it was and then train it. Like I get there's people that may have a talent, but if
Yeah,
they don't put it into practice, they don't become special in the sport. Like I know people that were like great basketball players me growing up. They're not in the NBA right now
yeah,
because they didn't put the same time that many other people do to make it. And the same thing, and like for me, it was baseball, for example. Like I know people that were like amazing baseball players, but they were lazy. Like they didn't like waking up early. They were like, I'll show up to practice or whatever the case may be. They didn't work as hard. So they were talented, but were they special? I don't know.
so let's get into the next question. Do you think patriotism is looked down upon in urban communities?
In urban communities,
Yeah.
I think it's looked down in America, period, right now. I think especially I feel since the Trump age or the Trump era. I don't even know if that's a good term, but I feel like since Trump, patriotism has started to be seen very, very differently. And I can see I think many people were kind of embarrassed by the persona he play and how we were viewed internationally by other countries. That it got to the point that I can see why many people would say, "Hey, I don't know if I'm proud to say I'm American," or they might have been ashamed of it. Uh, do I think still exist? I do think still exists. Like I'm proud to be an American, and I got to choose to be one, which is a weird thing. It's like I wasn't born here, so which means I got to choose to say I'm going to swear to be a citizen of this country, which I think is a whole different dynamic. Um, so I'm proud of that, and I kind of respect the values that come with it, and like the fact that there's rights that come with being an American. So I think there's pride in that, and why not be prideful of it. In urban areas, I think people get uh, gaslighted a lot to the point that they are meant to believe that they shouldn't be proud to be American. And I think maybe it comes back to the sense of entitlement. It's kind of, I feel like many people maybe have the idea of like, oh, I didn't get what I think I deserve. So the country has let me down and the country has failed me. And I don't think America's perfect. I think it has possibly failed giving people fair opportunities. I will agree with that. But I don't think is I wouldn't I don't know. Where would you be more proud to be from right now? That's what I will ask somebody that says that.
Um, I don't think it's entitlement, but I do agree with the gaslighting. Where I think that what made me think about that is because you don't see people in like quote unquote urban communities, like we don't have American flags hanging on our porches or on the trunk of our cars, or we don't really wear American shirts or
Hmm.
stuff like that. Like in our communities, we're like from wherever we're from, we might like or like we might be from a certain section of the city or whatever. You know what I mean? But I don't feel like people are like, oh yeah, like I'm American. Like I don't feel like it's like a united front.
Yeah, because I think everybody's divided. Like if I can divide you into smaller and smaller groups, it's easier for me to control you. And I think that's something that politicians in America do very, very well. They do a great job of putting you into categories that make you feel like you're part of a smaller and smaller group. Even like the terms of minority. I know even me, the concept of race as it exists in America, I didn't experience that the first 10, 11 years of my life until I came here. Because the way race is portrayed, at least in DR, and even when I go to Europe and so on, even though Europe now is starting to see more of like the American influence coming over, um, it's not the same way that it's done here. Like being told you're black, like to me, I'm black, right? Because I'm like I look black, and that's all that it matter in DR. Uh, but it wasn't the same way that it's here. That's automatically you have to fall within a category, and you have to play within the rules of that category.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what creates that illusion of I identify with the smaller category. I don't identify with the bigger picture of I'm an American, which I think if we were united and all very, very proud about saying I'm an American as a whole, America will be a very, very scary country, even more than it is now. And I don't mean it in a negative way, but as to what we can accomplish. But I also get it why people in power and in government they will benefit from keeping you with the mindset of I have to make you think you're part of a smaller community and maybe you're being oppressed or maybe you're being hurt. Because if I allow you to become a huge power of people together, it would be so much more difficult to control you, or so much more difficult to get you to vote for me, or so much more difficult to get you to do XYZ about it. And it was interesting to see, even during the COVID years, it was like how some people reacted, how some groups reacted, how some political parties reacted was very different than one another. So I don't know. It's interesting.
I also think that it's like the people too, because you see how in DR, when like how you said, when they see you in DR, you're black but you're Dominican. Like once you start talking to everybody, like it's all whatever. But here, like we like black people look at me like I'm Hispanic, white people look at me like I'm Hispanic, and then Hispanic people look at me like I'm Hispanic, but then like Dominicans look at me like I'm American and
Yeah.
I'm Dominican.
Yeah, because it's an
So
American
like
thing. Because now they're thinking like an American, so they're categorizing you in different ways.
it's like a weird space. It's like a weird, because to me, and no, honestly, like I'm proud to be Dominican, like that's my heritage and all that. But also, like I live in America, like I care, like I want it to be like I want to live in a better community. Like I would like my community to grow and be better because it's where I live. I care about the community that I live in. This is where I grow, where I'm living, where I'm gonna grow up. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
that's what I care about. So I would say, like I'm American Dominican. Like so I don't know.
you
It's
see,
weird.
even that thing you just did is a very American thing to do. It
That's the first time I've ever like really broke it down to like in this conversation that we're having now. That's the first time I've ever actually said that and thought and like because then you look at me and there's like I look Dominican and like I listen to music like all my shit is like really is Dominican, but I live here. Like at the end of the day, like it's not like I can go back to DR. I don't have somewhere I can go there. You know what I mean? So it
yeah,
doesn't really
no, but I don't
feel.
even think you noticed. You said Dominican American or something like that. You put a prefix before you said American,
Yeah, and
and
then I flipped it.
and almost every category of people tend to do that. I'm like, and I don't know.
We have to here.
You don't have to. You
Here though, yeah,
choose
we
to do
do.
it. No, you don't. I could
So
just say I'm American.
on the census, yeah, but it still breaks down to more
Like the
categories.
dumbest shit I've ever heard, which is crazy. When I went to get my citizenship text and I went to get sworn in, the guy that gave me the thing was like, "Oh, do you want to check off white?" Like because they make you choose a race, and I'm like, and I literally looked and I'm like, "Are you seeing me? Do I look white to you?" Because the options were literally like white, Hispanic. It wasn't even Hispanic. It was white, black, Asian, and Native American or something like that, and then other. And I was like, "Do I look white to you?" It was like, "But you're Hispanic, so you can just say you're white." But I think that kind of leads to this weird dynamic of like, why do I even have to check that box? Like to me, like, what is it gonna do? What is it gonna? Are you gonna see me differently? Is it gonna affect what you're gonna? And if it is, then I feel like that creates a whole different set of problems. And if you're gonna admit that me saying I'm something different is gonna make you make choices that are different, or you're gonna treat me differently because I have a different checkbox on this piece of paper or document, then I think at that point, if you can prove that they're treating you different, then I feel like yeah, definitely in that aspect the country is failing.
Let me just you brought a little bit of curiosity into my brain. So let me just Google what is the purpose of the census?
Well, the
Because
census is to know how many people are in the country.
but why break it down to a T to the like this like the same thing that we're talking about? Why check off white and black? Why in the census is you have to check off all these extra boxes?
I don't know. I
Like
wonder
what
when they introduce that.
like
I guess to
what's
have an idea of where people are coming from, which I understand because America is like probably one of the most multicultural countries in the world. I don't think there's too many that will get close to it from a diversity perspective, like people coming from different places and different descendants, like descendants from different cultures. Um, but yeah, I don't know. In my mind, my perspective is just a form of control. If I can make you think that you're part of a category, then I can make decisions based on that category and like push ideas your way based on that category and make you think a certain way based on that category.
think that like everything is like for a reason and shit. They want to know like make sure they know where everything is. So they have like they have red line laws, and then they can push shit, move shit around to where they can like make these communities be super cheap, be super fucked up, and then whenever they want it, they can just buy everything up real quick and then turn it into whatever they want to turn it into and change the whole, like right here Southwest, like the whole Southwest change it, or West,
Yeah,
like
but
the
who's
lower part,
they?
the city,
What do
and the
you
people
mean?
that are investing into the city.
Yeah, but those are most of them are not the city. Those are people. Most of them are maybe businesses, owners, individuals.
Because the plan of the city is to like expand the city more up this way up towards 52nd Street.
No, I know that's the
So
plan, but I'm pretty sure the city didn't say we're only going to sell Southwest to white people or something.
no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that they can keep the communities fucked up in a certain area per se a Southwest. So then when they do decide to invest into this part, they can just buy the area for at a lower rate and then turn it into whatever they decide to turn it into.
But how are they
And
keeping the community fucked up? You see, this is a part where I think, because I do get it, yeah, the government does play a role. Don't get me wrong. I understand it 100%, but I think what role does the community play in not letting it go to shit?
I don't think we hold ourselves accountable enough in the communities. The way that we treat the communities that we live in, like it's fucked up because if I live in this community, why would I go outside and throw trash on the floor? Why would I go outside and treat my neighbors bad? Like we're supposed to live in a community where we help each other and we live like comfortable, like nice, not it be all fucked up like that. But that's not really the way that it is in a community. Like people don't give a fuck.
I get it, but why blame the city? Is that the city's fault or is that the people that live in the community's fault?
I I think it's a combination of both, but I think that there's a reason why like there's certain areas that are just like safer, cleaner, they're better patrolled, the property taxes are higher. Like there's a reason why certain areas are better than others. And that's what I'm trying
Was
to figure out.
was the reason,
I think it's a combination of things.
such as?
Because whenever a major like a major prominent black area has grown in America, it's also been burnt down or fucked up by somebody
Is that happening like now in the recent kind of years?
in the recent kind of years. Nah, not recently, no. So what is it? What's stopping the communities from growing? It's the whatever's influencing the communities to not continue to progress a certain way.
Uh, from my end, and I think this is where the my roots kind of kick in, and I think there's been a loss of the family dynamic and the value of family and the value of your neighbor. Like I know most people don't even know like their neighbor's name or like their
Yeah.
kids and stuff like that. So if I don't know someone, why would I care about them? You know what I mean? So it kind of creates
Yeah.
this dynamic of like, oh, you're just another stranger. So I don't put any value on developing that relationship or protecting it. And some of those communities that you may say, oh, they're better, they're patrolled better. How are the people that live in that community? Like, do they show up to council meetings and stuff like that? Are they protesting any? And I don't mean literally like protesting or fighting it, but will they show up to a council meeting and be like, oh, we don't like if this and this happened?
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Do they fund part of the community better? Maybe they do pay more taxes, like you mentioned. They have like higher home
Property
ownership
taxes.
taxes and property taxes. So I don't know. I think is like I do get it that the government does play a role, but I think some of it has to fall down on the individual. You have to take accountability and like
No, a lot of it. That's something like a code that I can't crack in my head. Like sometimes because I'll just look at it, I'm like, damn, like I really wanted what it breaks down to, like why people don't give a fuck about like the communities anymore. Like what really is just stopping people from because I agree with you. That's what's missing is
we're
that lack of
selfish.
community.
I think right now we're living in an era of being extremely selfish. Like we put ourselves first. And I mean it to the most literal sense. Like almost 90% of the time, most individuals, especially of the younger generation, we tend to put ourselves first. Like I think about how is something going to make me feel? Am I going to like it? Am I going to be happy? Oh, I don't want to deal with it. Like I think about me, I don't put somebody else ahead of me. Uh, and if you want your community to get better, that means I have to think about the community. I have to think about other people. I need to think about those around me. And the selfishness aspect of like social media that creates this persona that you're almost the center of attention kind of a thing in the way that you interact with the world, even though to be honest, most people don't care. Like there's a like you post something, people may see it for a couple seconds and then they're going to the next person. Like they're not really paying attention to your life so deeply that way. But I do think that's what it comes down to. It's like we need to evolve from being so selfish, which is something that just happened. I don't know, maybe how we were raised.
I don't like that answer. I'm gonna be honest.
Why?
I don't like because I do agree that we are selfish, and I do, and I am also one of those people that I do. I definitely put myself. I'm selfish as fuck, but I don't know if necessarily that's what's fucking up the communities. Like, what if that's the like that would be the answer because
Then what's missing?
I gotta think about that some more. I gotta
I,
think about that one some
I
more.
don't know. That's why I ask it. Like what's missing? Because I think that's one of the toughest things I've seen.
What made us so selfish?
What made us so selfish?
Yeah.
I think what we were talking about earlier at the beginning. I think since a young age, we been put as the center of attention in many ways. Like maybe a little bit of that in school. Our parents maybe overprotected us
There you go.
and shielded
Boom.
us.
Full circle. Thank you. Because that was what I was thinking about earlier. That I'm like the second question. But are my parents supposed to protect me if something happens in school? Like I had a teacher that told me I was in fifth grade. Like this sounds like some song ass shit. Like it really told me like, oh, you're not gonna be shit. And I'm like, all right, cool. I never said shit to my mom. But I'm 26 and I ain't forget that shit. I keep that shit a stack. And I'm gonna remind him one day. But it's cool. So it's like. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that because you're supposed to be there for your kid. Like, cause I don't think that was it was right for him to say that shit to me. I was a little kid and he don't know all the like the shit that I was going through as a kid at home. To be acting whatever way I was acting when you a grown ass man telling a little an 11-year-old kid he's not gonna be shit and you in your 20s 30 years old like I don't that doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
the world is not pretty. The world is not perfect. People are not gonna say things you like all of the time. And I
Facts.
think that's the part that we're missing is that we put cushioning into admitting, yo, the world is a dangerous place out there.
There you
And
go.
like even people being mean with words, I think your parents, and I don't mean yours literally, but like if our
No,
parents take the time to say, hey, like, how do you deal with somebody being mean? Like, what words really matter? Like, what do you just gotta listen through one ear and go out the other? Like that type of stuff, I think is part of what we're missing, as opposed to saying, "Oh, I need to automatically go talk to that teacher." Maybe a conversation should have been had with the teacher. I don't know. Like, I don't have the full context, but you can also view it from the perspective of now that's fuel because you still remember that, and you're like, "I'm
yeah,
gonna prove him wrong one day."
yeah.
And that's part of it. And I think how can you use that as fuel, and how do you learn to turn that into a positive? Which I think is part of the dynamic. But yeah, I think that can be it.
I think I don't have kids, but I think it's a tough middle to try to find of where there are also times where my mom definitely like overprotected me. I can definitely admit that there's times where like shit I should have went through like she saved me for sure. So you know, like now that she's not around, when I go through certain situations for the first time and I don't have anybody to help me, it's a different conversation. Like it's like the thoughts that I have with myself and the conversations I have with myself are completely different, and the way that I approach things, and I have to think about like, yo, like nobody got me. The only person that got me is me, and I never like fully 100% understood that concept until more recently. So that was just go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I get it, and that makes sense. And I think especially a mom is supposed to be
Yeah,
that person that's really nurtures, and maybe that plays a different role because that's something that I've noticed uh, is that we don't have many parents that are raising kids together for the most part. Like you usually have from at least most of my friends and people that I see around me, that they probably grew up with one parent being more present than the other, and oftentimes it tends to lean towards the mom being the
Yeah.
person that's there. So that creates a dynamic of like you never had that person that maybe challenged you to do something again when you did fail. Like I have some crazy stories, but like I grew up with my dad, well, my stepdad, but to me, he's my dad. He's been around since I was 10 months old. But like I will get a cut, and the way my mom will react is very different than the way he will do it. Now, this is some weird Dominican shit, but he will literally will have a cut. It was like, oh, I probably need stitches. Like, cool, here's lemon and salt. It won't get infected. Go back to playing. It's a very different approach that if my mom would have seen it as it happened. Um, and I think kids need that, especially boys and men. They need that aspect of tough love and kind of showing you, hey, the
Yeah, that's
world
fire.
is
I'm
not
not
an
gonna
easy
lie.
day. So I think we're missing a lot of that. I think some of that. I don't even know what the right terminology. Maybe that masculine energy of some sort is being lost.
Yeah, a lot of like not having dads in the house and shit. But I think that has to do with the fact that it's harder to have like that like that home and the family, that life that people imagine with the American dream. That's like you know what I mean? Like the 3 bedroom house or whatever the fuck with the family, the 2 kids, all that shit is harder to afford than what it once was before.
Is it? And I'm asking it bluntly because this is the way I view it. And once again, I'm an immigrant, so I view it a little different. And I think sometimes we get stuck into the concept of like, can I really obtain this or can I not do this or this and that? And I'm like, have we done everything we can to really attain it? Or have we made crazy decisions in our young years that probably put me into debt? So now I literally cannot save 15, 20 grand to put it as a down payment towards a house. Once again, it comes to self accountability and saying that, hey, I accumulated 50 grand of credit card debt in my early 20s with some decisions and choices I did because I probably wasn't educated or like didn't have the idea of what to do with finances. But now I'm saying the American dream is not available. But I'm like, hey, we did make choices that were very, very detrimental and probably are making it a little difficult for you to obtain what you may consider the American dream. But I'd be honest, I don't think people are pursuing that American dream as much or that description of it. I think many immigrants come in and they do it. I can see a lot of people that come in as immigrants, Asians, Indian, even Dominicans. They will come in like people from almost anywhere. They come in and they pursue that and they will buy a property. They will have a house. They will send their kids to college. But those are the ones that are usually have even like look at I don't know people working at a Chinese restaurant down the street. You'll see the mom, you see the dad working. You have the kids doing homework in the back, and like they're like one working like crazy hours because they open up like at 10 in the morning, close at midnight, but they are chasing that American dream and making it happen. But then people complain because they're getting ahead. But why are they getting ahead? They're putting in the work. You get what I mean? And they're putting a lot of sacrifices into being able to do that. It's not just going to come to you. So I think that's where the thing gets lost. It's like valuing how much work people are putting in order to obtain it. It's just not going to come to you.
I agree with that sentiment. But also what I meant a little bit more where like I feel like more people had that with more average jobs or more average careers, stuff like that. Like I just feel like that some of the average wages, like the average jobs that you can find, are tough for you to live off of today.
What are you considering an average job?
Like, well, the average pay for a citizen in America is, I think it's like about 33K. But let's boost that up to, like, let's say like 40, 45 a year.
Hmm.
It's tough to live off in most big cities in America.
Then move out of the big city. Like that's one of the best things about America. You can pick up and move, and it's a massive country. Like, why would I pay city taxes and like play into everything else that comes into the city if I don't think I can afford or move ahead? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's part of the dynamic of like, okay, if I cannot really afford or make it, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to the suburbs where I can get a whole house instead of paying $1,000 or something for an apartment. I maybe get a whole house for $1,200 or whatever the case might be. or I can buy a house. You know what I mean? And especially like even if you take PA as an example, there's places in PA where you can buy a house for 80K, 90K, which is not a crazy amount, especially if you're thinking of a mortgage. It's probably way less than you will pay in rent right now. But sometimes part of the selfishness aspect of it is like, oh, I want to be in the city because I want to be in the mix or whatever the case might be. And that's fine if you want to do that, but then don't blame it on the system. It's more of like, I'm making choices that limit the things I can do. So to me, that comes down to the individual. Say, hey, I made the choice to live in the city, or maybe you were born in the city, but I made the choice to stay in it. I can either let me go ahead and make more money, figure out a way to make it, or if I don't see myself being able to make more money, let me go and leave the city where I know I can progress and potentially do something different. Yeah.
But from the earlier conversation too that we were talking about with the kids, you can't get bullied anymore. I think that's what it is. We cracked the code. You can't get bullied anymore. Soon as you get bullied now, like the parents doing like it's all this extra shit. It's all this like this woke fucking canceling bullshit. It's all this extra shit. You can't get bullied no more. That's what's missing. That tough energy, that tough shit that say you gotta go through. You gotta get fucking. You gotta fight sometimes. You gotta go through shit. Like
I think it's the opposite right now. I think kids are getting bullied in a very different way. Like you don't have your traditional bully that will push you and beat you up all the time.
no, yeah, that's what we need.
Like
We
like
got we need those. We gotta bring
like
those back.
like you have some of that, but I feel like right now you probably have more cyberbullying and like people being mean to you online, and like if you have access to social media, like you're constantly being fed negative thoughts or being called names or something. And knowing kids nowadays, and many of our parents maybe don't even know how to interact with the devices that they're currently using, don't even know that's taking place. So they're playing a war in their own mind that the parents are not even aware of, which to me that's scary right now. But
because they grow up in the internet era and then they feel like it's the end of the world because it's just like your phone all day. You just negative shit just going through your phone all day, all day.
yeah, but I don't even blame them because you have to think about it. The worst thing that's ever happened, I don't know who said this quote, but the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. Like that's the only thing you can compare it to. Like in my mind, you're like, oh, like this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. You don't have anything else to compare it to. Like if you've been to a war torn country or you've been somewhere else, then you have something to compare it to and be like, oh, you know what? I don't have it as bad. But if you've never seen that and you lived a fairly cushy life and all you can experience is the difficulty of whatever you're experiencing on social media and online, that's tough. And that can be tough mentally. And I think,
And if you're a kid,
yeah, especially if you're a kid. I'm like, if you're a parent right now, I'm saying kids have to do sports. Like I would say you have to figure out like just the way I see kids sitting on their ass all the time, just playing video games. Like you have to go out there and do something physical. You need to do stuff that will make you lose just so you learn what losing is. Like I'm not a huge fan of like giving a trophy just because you participated.
hell no.
But I think as a kid, you have to learn. It's like, oh, if I work hard, I maybe win, or there's somebody else that may be better than me. Like you learn that, and like you'll carry that through your adulthood, and we taken a lot of that away. And then that puts you in the position where we are now. It's like, oh, we didn't fail too often as kids. So now whenever we're failing, we're like, hold up, isn't somebody supposed to bail me out? In the past, it might have been your mom. So now people may be, isn't the government supposed to bail me out or whatever the case may be? As opposed to saying, hey, nobody's coming to save me. So how do I figure it out? What do I do differently?
Nobody coming.
Do
to
I need
save
to
you.
leave this city? And many people don't want to make that decision because they're expecting the government of the city to come save them somehow or whatever the case might be.
We moving. We picking up and moving. He
Now,
said, we look.
I live in the suburbs, so don't look at me.
Oh shit. Let's see what else we got on the docket for tonight. Some good conversations. Some good conversations. They found some coke in the White House in the West Wing of the White House. I
Oh,
thought that was like this like such a big thing on the news, but I'm like, bro, like this shit is predicted. Like that doesn't surprise me.
I thought that was a fake. I just read like a little thing on Twitter or something. Like I didn't pay any attention. I didn't know if it was true or not. I'm like, okay, how do they stay awake 24/7? The amount
Body
of
was
hours they have
dead,
to
bro.
run.
He's a zombie. Like
So I'm like, whoever, one of those staffers or whoever works doesn't like. They probably need something to speed them up every now and then. So That to me makes sense. I was like, okay.
That's fucking hilarious. And I'm like, his son probably went to visit him or some shit. Like, I don't know. I see some shit that he was doing. 175 cracked out, fucking driving through Vegas or some shit like that. And I'm like, bro, you could really get away with anything. And then they posted a clip over top of Biden saying everybody should go to jail for having crack cocaine and all this other shit. And they have all these videos
Oh,
of Biden doing crack. And
yeah.
it's not even like they have videos of him. It's like, yo, I'm outside. Like he
Like
don't even give a
he
fuck.
self snitched. Like
Yeah.
he's the one recording it and like posting it or whatever the case might be. But yeah,
I mean, that's what everybody really is doing though. Like all these kids on social media, everybody doing the same shit. Did you download Threads, the new Threads app,
you have to.
Instagram?
Well, like Instagram just put it all over my face. I like it so far. I
It's Twitter 2.0, like same shit.
I don't know. No, not really. Not really. So I'll tell you why I like it so far. So it feels like when social media first started, and you might be you may not be old enough to remember like 2007, 2008, 2009, when things first started. But I think the main difference with Threads is like people are just being people. And at least it's the first day so far. So like the brands are not going crazy. There's no bots. But there's one thing that's not on there that I think is the main difference between it and Twitter. And that is that there's no trending topics. Like there's no trending section. And I think if that stays out, which I don't know I think that's eventually going to come in, but I don't know if he'll get sued or something if they implement it. I think it can be pretty cool because it's like, oh, you have to find who you want to read and what they're saying, as opposed to like randomly being fed something all the time, which I think is a problem with Twitter. It's like it's easy to overwhelm a topic right now if it gets to the trending thing, because now everybody wants to share their opinion about what's trending just so they can get more eyes on it. But if you don't have a trending section, then you're talking about what you want to talk about or whatever you want to comment on, and you're not following the trend or the trend of discussion in some way.
Because I seen Twitter was they send a letter to to the people over at Instagram that they were threatening to sue for let me just read it. Make sure I get it correct. They beefing. Oh no, I can't find it. I thought I
I
had
don't
it.
even think they're beefing. I'm like, do you really think that people freaking Meta didn't know that they were going to get sued by Twitter? Like, you should know that at the moment this went live, it was like, cool, we got to get the lawyers ready to expect the lawsuit. Like, because you're copying a whole chunk of what the concept is.
Yeah.
But you also want to keep in mind there are experts at doing it. And they still have every single feature they release. Like, they have Reels, which is just literally the same shit as TikTok. The stories was a copy of Snapchat. So everything right now, like they've been releasing features that they just been taking from other apps,
Yeah.
and they still have them. Like they can afford the lawyers to fight it out. And even if they're getting sued, how many years are they going to go back and forth in courts? It's the only people that are really going to make money is
The lawyers.
the lawyers, and they will with ads as soon as they figure out a way to monetize it. So
So they're the Apple of social media.
and which way?
Every everything. Apple hasn't put out something new in a while. They just borrow some features or whatever. Make it theirs.
Sort of. I think Apple plays a different game though. Apple plays the game of we're gonna make it fit into the ecosystem, and they don't release it just to say they have a new feature. Like they wait until they have something unique about it or something that makes it Apple, which is crazy. Like they're like the best marketers out of all the tech companies. I think. Like right now, how the hell you get people to pay for a blue text versus a green text is amazing to me. But they did it. And like I know Apple's doing a lot of stuff right now that people don't even talk about. They haven't mentioned the word AI when the entire world is only talking about AI about everything. And they're strategically probably waiting to coin a phrase that's going to be unique to Apple about AI. And then once they have it and they have something unique about it, they're going to call this Apple something. And it's their version of AI, whatever the case may be. So I don't know. I think they're good at marketing it, and they take features and they usually do make it better, a little more user friendly, and then they release it. So I don't think they just literally copy and then go 100% with a copy. They tend to like tweak
Just think
it and finesse it to their thing. Yeah.
All right, so to staying on competing brands, Spotify is adding like they're making a big push into videos, into like more like a YouTube style kind of thing. So do you think YouTube, excuse me, Spotify can take like a big enough percentage from YouTube where it affects them?
Uh, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. It's good competition. I feel like the more company you have doing the same thing or something similar and competing against each other is going to do one or two things. It's either going to push all the brands to be better because they're going to have to try to outdo each other somehow. Um, Plus, more options for us, people who are creating content and putting stuff out there. But I think the main difference for Spotify and YouTube is, which is the weird part, is the censoring piece. So I
Spotify
think
doesn't really.
because I think Spotify has kind of shown there's like, oh, we'll kind of censor, but they're a little more lenient about it.
Yeah.
Like they're more. I don't even want to say pro free speech because they're not even based out of the U.S. technically. Well, their CEO's not, but I think that could be the difference. Will it take a market share from YouTube? Probably a little one. I don't think it'll take people 100% off YouTube though. YouTube's just too big right now. Is kind of like just going to be another satellite unit.
YouTube is like a Google. It's like its own thing. Like you just like, oh, whatever. Like I'll just YouTube it. I'll just Google it. Like it's
Well,
its
it's
own
technically it
phrase,
is
its
owned
own
by
thing.
Google, so well Alphabet, but
Well, no, but that's not even what I meant. It's just more like it's its own thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna just Google that real quick. Like it's just a thing. Like a YouTube is the Google of videos. Like it's just a hub. Like you can whatever you want to look for, whatever. If you want the video version of that, YouTube.
yeah, and they've done that over the years. That's what I'm saying. Like right now, they're too established for you to like make a dent very quickly.
Big enough that.
Yeah, maybe with time, another company can grow and be big enough to be able to do it, but I don't know if it'll be like immediately felt because there's already other companies trying to do it, but it's not the same. I
No,
don't think this is
those are it's gonna take some more legwork. But I think like Spotify was able to take a chunk out of not I wouldn't say a chunk, a piece out of Apple's podcast shares or whatever. But then it's like you're still listening to it on an Apple device. So it's like, all right, you could take a little bit from there, but you still got to pay us because it's in our store on our phone, and there's like so many other shit that.
Yeah, so Apple still gets paid regardless, and now they don't have to put as much R&D money into the podcast section. But then I think you also have to think about like the when Spotify did it, it was before like podcasts were in the rise,
Yeah.
but they hadn't like blown up like they are right now.
In terms of people making them.
Like people making them and people wanting to do that and sharing them. So when they started to like eat at that market share, they kind of got a little bit ahead of the super extra boom that podcast had like in the last 5 years, where they started like leaning into it, and then they were willing to put a gamble by buying out Rogan.
Yeah.
Like if you were like, oh, we're gonna buy the biggest podcast in the world and you can only listen to it here. Uh, to me, they gambled. They were like, oh, we're gonna give you all this money and it's either gonna work out or not, and it's proven to work out so far.
Yeah, that was whoever made that gamble. Fucking, he definitely got a raise. He definitely got a promotion or something, for sure. Definitely got a
Raise. He probably got a cut. He got a bonus.
promotion. The National Assembly in France adopted Article 3 of the Justice Bill, which authorizes the authorities to remotely activate the cameras and microphones of telephones of other connected devices without the knowledge of the persons concerned. Um, Let me add a little bit more context to that. The bill that allows law enforcement to activate cameras, microphones, geological data on suspects' devices for persons targeted in organized crime and terrorism investigations. I think that's a little scary.
It's like what? That's their version of the Patriot Act. That's what it sounds like. Because that's what kind of like that's what happened here, like after 9/11. Uh,
They can just they can just turn on your phone and shit.
like it gave the government a bunch of abilities to spy on its own people.
I think, yeah. I mean, it was a different time though, so it was like the way they got that through like so much shit going on at the time that it's like, and then social media like it wasn't the way that it is now. Like news coverage isn't the way that it is now.
Well, but France is like burning right now. Like there's a crazy amount of protests and stuff right now. So I
because
know,
of the kids that got killed.
yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was one kid,
Oh yeah, the kid.
like the kid in the car. Yeah, but so I don't know if they'll use that as an opportunity to pass it, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm like, to me, that sounds like another version of the Patriot Act. I'm like, if you live in another country and you didn't learn from it, and now you have people like Snowden who kind of exposed it, uh, going through pretty much hell, um, and you allowed that to happen, is that's why I think you need to be patriotic. Because I'm like, this is how you. That's the type of stuff that I think you should push back against the government and like let it be known. It's like, oh, we're not cool with it, kind of a thing. Because I do believe that power will corrupt, absolutely. Like it's eventually going to corrupt you. And anybody who's in power and anybody who's a politician, not even a politician, because I think those that are like really, really impacting things are those that have a job that were not elected for it. Because those are the ones that stay around for a long time. Because there's people that are appointed to positions and they've been in it for like the last 20, 30 years, and voters have no influence over them. I think those are the ones that really want to pass these kind of laws, because one, it will make their jobs easier in some type of way, um, and they can chuck it all to national security, protecting national security or something like that. So
Yeah, they can just do whatever they want. It's just national security.
yeah, but I think it's weird because I think now I'm kind of going to make it full circle to the back. I think right now it's funny that we have a lot of people that because they may not agree with another person politically, they're willing to give up some of their rights just so that the person that I don't like doesn't have that right either, which I think is crazy because something always, I feel like if you ever give the government power, it would eventually be used against you somehow. Like the more and more they can do, the more likely they'll be able to enforce it in a way that you may not like at some point in time. Because right now, yeah, they may be speaking something that you agree with and you like and you're willing to go with. But eventually, what if you're on the other end and then the government says, I don't agree with what you're saying. So now I don't want you to be able to do what you're doing. And they start using whatever they passed to help you at the point that you liked it to use it against you.
I think that for the most part, they can get us to do almost anything. I think they're like it's probably about 90% of shit that they can get the whole country to do one way or another. The way they just have to spin the narrative the right way. But I think there are certain like little things that like certain breaking points where like people might push back against it, but there's maybe only really like one or two things that people might really push back against.
I don't know. A lot of people push the little thing that we're not supposed to say it out loud during the illness that you had to put in your arm.
But I'm yeah, but
And they try to force that shit like
and a
100%.
lot of people did get that shit.
I know, but there were people literally, and they got to the point that they just pitted people against each other,
Yeah, exactly.
which in my mind that's crazy. They literally was like, and there was people just automatically categorizing people as a bad person just because, oh, you don't want to get it, then you're definitely a bad person. I don't care about what else you think or the reasoning why you're not getting it. You're just a bad person, period. So I think that's what I mean. Like people are willing to give up some of their rights or their autonomy just for another person. Like people wanted to have the ability to know who had it or didn't get it, like and like publicly make a passport or something like that. But if you do that, then it can be used against you at one point. Like if your medical records can be accessed publicly in some way, then that's already a thing. Now it can be for this illness or this thing that we cannot say or the jab.
And break down the whole HIPAA laws. Everything.
That's fine, but once it passes and it becomes a thing, now they can use it for something else in 3 years.
So yeah, listen, we gonna learn on this bitch together because there's some shit that he be saying that I be listening, but I don't know what it is. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Never Famous Podcast, best upcoming podcast on the planet. Make sure to hit the like, subscribe, comment, share. We appreciate the love. Thank you for tuning in.